Invoice templates. To set up invoice templates in the Magazine Manager, first go to the Management menu, Site Setup, Website Setup. In the Website Setup, if you'll go down to the Add Sales Management area, you'll see your Invoice Templates link. You'll see the loaded invoice templates that are already defined for your account in the Magazine Manager. We suggest that if you're building an invoice template, to start with the default invoice template and then make modifications based on that template. So we're going to start with our default invoice template. We'll press the Edit button out to the left here. And the first thing you want to do when you're editing an existing default template that came with your software is just press the Save As button first, and then let's rename this invoice template. We'll call it Organic Delights Invoice, and then we'll save this template. Let's press Done. Takes us back to the invoice templates list. Notice we have the newly created invoice template here, Organic Delights Invoice. Edit that invoice. And so the first thing you want to notice that there are three sections in which you can modify the invoice. You can modify the upper text area here. You can modify the line item details that show up on the invoice template, and you can also modify the lower text here on the invoice template. Let's first take a look at how to modify the upper text. In here, you want to change the company name and put in your company's name and address. Once you've entered the company's address, you can also insert a graphic if you'd like. If you want to put your company's logo in here. To insert a graphic into the new invoice template, you would come into your image gallery, and if your graphic is not in the image gallery yet, you must upload the graphic into the image gallery in order to use this graphic in any of your templates in the Magazine Manager. So we're going to use our fuzzy panda bear here in our invoice, and you can double click this bear and you can modify the size here by clicking in that area, changing the size, and it will keep this relative lock so that the size adjusts proportionally to what the original size was. And with this image, you can also center it, you can right justify, left justify, you can do a number of things with this. Notice the text here, the address block B, and also invoice date, invoice number, due date. All of these fields are merge fields, and these merge fields will pull the data from the database based on the stored contract, the stored invoice information, and it will actually populate and pull into here. Let's say, for example, in the bill to block, you want to have the address block, and let's say, for example, you want to also include here, if it exists, the advertising agency's company. So we can put a label for this field, Ad Agency, and then let's give a couple of spaces, and then we could come up to the contacts here, and under contact, these are the merge fields that are available to merge with the contact. We can look for the ad agency company name, select that field, and now we have ad agency and the company name ad agency. Alright, so that's how to insert a merge field into your invoice template. Once you've made all of the changes, I like the way that the due date, the invoice number, the date of the invoice, and everything is already here, so I'm not going to modify anything else. Once I'm done with my modifications for the upper text area here, we'll press the Save button, and it will take us back to our invoice template. The next section to modify is the line item block section. And this section is where you're going to actually see each of the line items that exist on the invoice and what the line items are for. Right now we only have a print block to invoice our print line items. We do want this to be a robust invoice, so we're going to add digital line items to this invoice as well. And you can do this simply by pressing the Add Digital Line Items block here. And so now we have the ability to determine what fields we want to be displayed in our digital line item block. So in our digital line item block, where of course we'll want to see what product is this digital item's going in. The start date, since this is a digital item, we'll have a start date. The end date for this ad to run. We'll also include the year. And just for something just to have some examples, we can also insert the net, any discounts that we've applied, discount details, and then we'll include here the gross. And then let's say, for example, not everyone will receive discounts. You can add the collapse argument to these display fields, and that means that on this invoice, if there are no line items with discounts or discount details, the invoice will actually hide these columns, and you will not actually see these columns with empty data underneath on that invoice. Notice as well you can insert any custom fields that you've defined for your site. If you want to include tax, let's say, for example, you're charging your customer tax. So you have the net discounts, and then let's move the tax up before we actually display our gross. At the top here, these are options that you can apply to this line item block. You can display the details. We'll show all the line items using the selected display columns, and a row total column called amount is added to the right side for everything in this row. You can also display all items in this block grouped by product. You can display a summary row with summary data for all the items in the group that have been have these summary identifiers sum put on that. So let's say, for example, we want a summary row for gross. We want a summary for all of our gross rates on here. We can put that there as well, and then we can display the total line for all the item blocks here. If you want that option, you turn that on as well. Once you're done configuring, customizing the line item block section, press save. And the same thing is true with the print line item blocks. Right now, what you see displayed is the actual ad size, the publication, the issue, the year, position, and so forth. This is what will appear in this line item for the print line items. And if you want to modify those as well, simply press the edit button to edit those. If you're allowing your customers to break up their payments and have installment payments, you can add a payment schedule to this invoice. If you want to add a blanket line item, a default charge for all invoices, you can do so as well here by pressing the add custom line item. We can give an amount for this custom line item, and we can call it whatever, fuel surcharge or something else that's pertinent to your magazine or for delivery or something else like that. And press save. All right, and so now we have line items, print, custom, and digital line items. I've changed my mind, let's say, for example, and I don't want to put this fuel surcharge on my invoices. To remove a line item from the line item block, press the button here with the red circle in the paper. This will actually delete that area from the line item blocks. Once you've finished customizing the line item blocks, press done, and it takes us back to our invoice template. The last section that you can modify on the invoice template is the lower text section. In the lower text section right now, this is very basic information. The payment is due on or before, and then the due date merge field, and this is defined whenever you create the invoice in the Magazine Manager. Something else to note here that a lot of our customers tend to do is if they are actually a merchant, they have a merchant account set up with us inside the Magazine Manager, you can actually place a link at the bottom here of the invoice to allow the client to click, and it will take them to the area to pay their bill. You can have self-payment options here for your clients if you want to insert that link here as well. And so once you're done modifying the footer area of the invoice template, press save. And when you're done with the upper line item blocks and lower text area of the invoice template, press save and done, and you've now created a new invoice template. Now that I've created the new invoice template, let's take a look and see what this invoice looks like in real life. So we'll go to our invoices and we'll search for all invoices created on today's date. Press search, and here's the invoice. We'll preview this invoice, and here's our invoice. Organic Delights. Have the ad agency here that we inserted. We have the print line as well as the digital line items, 2,000 and 5,000, 2,500 for the whole invoice. So that is how to create an invoice template and a new invoice in the Magazine Manager. Invoice Templates.